Welcome to Bring Out Your Badass Self, a movement to break your negative thoughts and habits and instead focus on building each other up and encouraging fearless authenticity.
Each week, we will get vulnerable and share experiences alongside our guests and audience. Come rediscover your inner badass self.
Good morning. My special co-host today is going to be Brent Darnell. So good morning, Brent. Welcome to Being a Badass this morning.
I'm very much looking forward to this, Sarah. When you asked me, I thought, wow, yes, yes was the first response, and let's find a date because I love what you're doing, and it's just a pleasure to be here.
Oh, I love that. Well, everyone, as you are joining us, please say hello and just let us know that you have arrived. And so we do want to hear from everyone. In the meantime, I do want to do a little bit of an introduction to Brent. For those that don't know him, I'm really thrilled about having him today. So Brent Darnell, he is a much needed voice in the AEC or architectural engineering construction industry. And he really focuses on helping organizations tackle their people issues by honing in on mental, physical, and emotional performance. And he was described by ENR, which is the Engineering News Record, as a leader who turns the construction industry alpha males into service-focused leaders. He is also the president and owner of Brent Darnell International, and his training and consulting company emphasizes that the importance of soft skills, or really emotional intelligence, to maximize each employee's potential and drive company success. He's also a best-selling author of The People Profit Connection: How Emotional Intelligence Can Maximize People Skills and Maximize Your Profits. And in that book, he shares his innovative approaches to teaching emotional intelligence in the technical fields. He also has many other books and courses to check out, and I'm going to be putting his website for you to check out. And I am just thrilled to really have you today. So I'm going to be adding into the comments for everyone his website address. Also, he said, connect to him on LinkedIn. And so I'm going to add that link as well. So Brent, I'm just excited to have you join us. You and I also got to connect in person as I was presenting with the S&PS panel. We've also gotten a lot of good feedback on that as well. Just people talking about emotional intelligence, which is your subject, and talking about the experience that they have and things like that. So I was really glad to see you in person too.
Oh, me too. That was such a great panel. What a wealth of knowledge and like a lot of badasses on the stage there, and really sharing their journeys, which is very helpful because
yeah,
I think we all think that these people that we admire and look up to it just sort of happens, and they live these charmed lives.
Mm-hmm.
And as it turns out, it's a lot of stuff, a lot of setbacks and a lot of issues and a lot of things you got to slog through. And that was such a great lesson for everybody in that room. So that was awesome.
Yeah, I do think that it's really important for people to understand that everyone's going through something. And it's different for everyone, and at different times of their lives as well. And nobody is without challenges in their lives. And today we're really going to dive into how do we deal with that? How do we deal with those challenges as well?
Yeah, to me, that's the key. I think sometimes people that sort of want to do their own thing, or entrepreneurs, they it's like they give up too soon. Like they encounter those really hard things and they think, wow, this is really hard and I don't think this is for me. And you if you can push through and learn from those things, it becomes this magical thing at the other end of that, right?
Yeah. Now, you've been an entrepreneur for how many years?
25 years.
Yeah.
So
and successes and then things that didn't go as well as you
Oh,
thought.
yeah. Well, like 2008, I lost all my business in a week. And then
Mm,
2021, I lost all my business in a week. And in 2008, I ended up borrowing like 80 grand against my house just to stay in business.
wow.
And I would go to conferences that I couldn't afford. I would just, you know, use equity from the house, buy the conference, but then I would stay 20-minute walk from the conference in an Airbnb room for 29 bucks a night because I couldn't afford the hotel. And so you just do what you got to do. And so during that time, it was all about building relationships and reaching out, telling people what I'm doing. And that was the key to sort of manage that and push through that. So,
Yeah.
but you got
And
to push
and
through.
you gotta have a passion for what it is, and you definitely have a passion for helping people to understand more about emotional intelligence and how it is that they can view maybe the world a little bit differently.
Absolutely. To me, it's more like a calling for me. And I told my wife I don't ever want to do a hard stop retire. I just
Mm,
want to cut back some at the end of this year, but I never want to stop doing this because I've seen it it's just transformational for many that do this work. It's just amazing to watch that process.
yeah. And for those that don't know, Brent was on before. He was a part of a panel previously, and one of the things that I described is that I remember meeting him. I remember going to one of his sessions, and it was in California that I ended up seeing him. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like, this is so good. Like, I love all the things that he's talking about because it really made you rethink things about yourself and looking at things in a different perspective. And that's a lot of what we're going to be talking about today.
Well, thank you for saying that. And my question to you is, what was your biggest challenge throughout
Mm.
your career, and how did you deal with that?
Well, oh gosh, there have been many. I think that right now I'm also going through some things as well. But if I look back on my career, I think probably the biggest challenge that I had was finding myself again.
Mm,
It really was going through a divorce. And also realizing that I wasn't the full potential of what I could be, that I
right.
was in a lot of ways dimming myself to be able to help my husband at the time. And
Mm,
really, once he just determined that he wanted a divorce, I was like, wow, I'm like, I really like have looked at my life and was like, here I was known for being a strong person.
yeah.
Even through the challenges and the other things that I dealt with, and I lost myself. So it was really finding myself again and also dealing with some of the past trauma and coming to and rectifying some of those things that had happened to me as a younger child as well. So really that was probably some of the toughest moments, was really finding myself. And I think that it was much later in life that I ended up truly finding myself.
Mm. I mean, and again, like now you're on the other side of that.
Mhm.
Would you trade that for anything now at this point?
No, I love who I am. I love that I'm able to just be openly honest about who it is that I am, and also the things that have happened to me. That's one of the things that I think is really powerful, is when
Yeah,
people can own their story and own the negative aspects of the things that have happened to them.
right. One of the exercises we do in our EI roadmap workbook is your bio, and make sure you hit your high points and low points from like childhood through present.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting to see the patterns there. And the one pattern that jumped out for me was, in my lowest times, I was always alone.
Mm,
And in
mm-hmm.
my celebratory times, I was always with people. And,
Interesting.
there were people around me, there were friends, there were family, there was a spouse, whatever. But it was really a wake up call for me because I, I'm I'm a typical, construction guy, mechanical engineer. When those downtimes hit, I tend to isolate. And
Yeah.
I think we've got to teach each other and learn from each other and reach out to each other during
Mm.
those times.
Yeah, connecting is really important. I think that I resonate with that as well. I do think that the lowest times of my life, I always have felt a little bit more independent and alone, just in general,
Mhm.
throughout my life. I've also found, I guess, sometimes strength in that, if that makes sense. Like,
Oh, sure.
and I think that when we start to look at this particular law, the law of relativity, it's also how do you confront, some of those fears that you have had issues with, and then how do you dismantle them? And for me, one of the things really had to do with control, like and I've talked about this openly, having been gone for almost a year, having been molested whenever I was younger. I had to deal with the fact that I didn't have control over that issue. So
Mm.
everything I did moving forward was, how do I control this situation? How do I deal with that? So for me, one of the things that I really had to do was also learn how to release and how to let go of the control. And that was also being comfortable being alone as well, like being
Right.
comfortable in my own presence, and not having that attachment as well. Like, I think connection is super important. I also think having detachment or not being attached to things also allowed me to flourish as well.
Yeah. I mean, your journey was different. You were coming out of a relationship
Hmm.
with the divorce and everything. So it was the strength in being alone.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I can certainly see that. That's the other side of that coin for sure.
Yeah.
And just understanding, like, that's what that's what I struggle with sometimes. I haven't had a lot of trauma in my life, but I coach a lot of people who have.
Yeah.
And what's the line between dealing with the trauma and moving on,
Hmm.
and recognizing that, or do you sometimes get in a state of denial when you're saying, oh, I'm good now, I've moved past that, I'm going forward, and that's all such a great thing. But I think if you don't acknowledge the trauma and do something to work through that, then it just, to me, it just pops up later somewhere else.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious for you, what are some fears that you've had issues confronting, and then how did you go about dismantling them?
Well, for me, this is ongoing. This is today, like
Yeah,
this
I know.
week.
I hear you.
It's a feeling of relevance, and it's a feeling of, am I relevant? Do people really want this? Sometimes it seems like nobody wants it, and that's discouraging sometimes. So there's that sense of relevance, and then the sense of inadequacy and imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
I'm not a psychologist. And I'm working with emotional intelligence, and I feel inadequate sometimes, that I don't have the credentials and I don't have the training. And so those discussions go on in my head probably at least weekly.
Yeah.
Uh, and the thing that pushes me through that is the results in the people that I work with, and the sometimes miraculous results and life-changing things that happen. And so I think you have to get back to your core values. And my whole mission statement is to help the world be a better place and help people be their best. And if you get discouraged on the day-to-day stuff, and people, rejecting you, or you're feeling inadequate, for me, it's about getting back to those core values and say, I'm helping a lot of people, and I have helped probably at this point thousands of people to really explore these things. And it's helped them to live a better life and to be a better, superintendent or project manager or husband or wife or father or mother. And so to me, that ripple effect is probably really huge. And so that's where I try to focus when I'm feeling that inadequacy and feeling that imposter stuff going on.
Yeah. I think that we all have dealt with that. And Recently, I was listening to Alabama coach Nick Saban is now a commentator on ESPN, and he was an amazing coach. But what I think made him an amazing coach was not that he just knew the sport, but I recently heard him talking about an experience that he had with an individual that was on his team. And this person was talking about the fact that they were upset about all this online stuff that was going on about them. And he turned to him and he's like, why do you care about some person who's in their underwear sitting in the basement of their mother's house?
Yeah.
And so it's like so many times, like we can be as successful as we want, and we still have concern about someone, some random person that has no
Totally.
influence on our life, what it is that they're saying about us.
Well, and sometimes that is even wrong, because I remember I did a session and we had these, smile sheets at the end. You rated me 1 to 10, and everybody gave me like 9s and 10s.
Yeah.
And this one guy, and I watched him put it in the pile, he rated a 7.
Uh-huh.
And I was like devastated. Like, what, man? And so I said, I'm going to just ask him. So I went over to him and I said, I noticed you gave me a 7 on this. He goes, I said, can you tell me why? He goes, because I thought it was really great. I thought, what an engineer. Like,
Yes.
it couldn't be perfect.
He doesn't give
But
8,
7
9,
is
and 10.
great. So I thought, okay, good lesson.
Yeah,
Right?
because everybody's perspective is different. So
Yeah.
he must think like an 8, 9, 10 is like unobtainable, maybe.
Yeah, maybe some miracles worked, or walking on water or something like that. I'd get a 10 for this guy, but 7 is awesome.
Yeah. Well, and as Nick was talking, some of the things that stood out to me as he said, focus on what it is you can control. Like that's what he did on the field is, okay.
Yes.
He even told them, don't listen, like, don't even get online. Don't listen to the TV. That's one of the things that he talked about. And it made me think about some of the things that we do in life and the people that we allow to influence us. And all we have to know is focus on what we can control, make a plan on what it is we want, and then focus on the positive. And if you do those things and just stay focused on what it is you're trying to do, you continue to move forward. But it's the negativity that we sometimes allow in, or the fear or the doubt, or all of those things that end up impacting us in doing what it is we can really accomplish in life.
Right. So how do you reconcile? You talked about the need for control after trauma.
Yeah.
How do you reconcile knowing what you need to control and what you can let go? How do you determine that?
Love this question. Yeah. For me, I love this question. And this is something I really had to focus in on. Whenever I will meditate, I will journal. And when I feel at peace with something, it means move forward. When I feel jittery about something, it means there's still something I'm supposed to be learning. So I'll still proceed forward, but I'll sort of release it a little bit more, and I'll be like, okay, sit back. And this is one of the things that I've really started to do more in meetings. I am the type of person, I am a take charge type person. So one of the things that I've been doing is when multiple people's names are on things, I sit back and I just wait. And I've been waiting and waiting and waiting. And then all of a sudden someone else talks and someone else speaks up. And by doing that, it allows us to sort of let go in a lot of ways in the things that a lot of times we would jump in and we'd try to control. It's also learning to sit back and listen and allow a little bit more space in the situation.
Right. It's funny that jarred a little memory. Just this week, I was working with a group of top level engineers, structural engineers, civil engineers, and we're doing kind of a recap session, and I'm asking questions, and then there's total silence, like, and I just let it sit for a long time, right? And then finally somebody will talk, and then we did this whole like almost an hour, and then somebody said, I'm really sorry about all the silence at the end of your questions. They were kind of apologizing for the group. And I said, you know what? It doesn't bother me at all. Like I'm going to let it sit because early in my career, I had the tendency to do what you just talked about. Jump in, don't give them enough time. I said, I see you guys processing this.
Yeah.
And if you just do it internally, that's awesome. And if you want to say something, great. And if you don't, that's cool too. And some of it may be just, I don't want to share this information with the group. Whatever it is, it doesn't bother me. So I'm just going to ask the questions, and maybe you're just formulating the answer in your head. That's fine. That's golden. But that sort of impulse to jump in and take control and make everybody feel comfortable or move things forward, to me, that is such a valuable skill to have. And do you find when you do that, you feel sort of powerful in a way, or you feel like it maybe even more in control than if you jumped in?
It allows me to be able to release. I'm like, oh, yay.
Yeah.
Someone else is taking the lead.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
I love that. Real quick, I do want to say hello to some people. So we do have people joining us today that have given some comments. So welcome, Heather. She said, happy Friday. So glad to be back live. We are glad that you are back alive with us as well. She's been watching the replays and things like that. So welcome back, Heather. Abbas, thank you so much. He said, good morning. And he's given us some hearts. So glad you are here today. Miss Kim is also here. She said, good morning and happy Friday to some amazing badasses. And so we love you, Kim. Thank you so much for joining us. Carmen's also here. She says, happy Friday, my favorite beautiful badass, and let's go. Brent is a beautiful badass too. We have J-Ro coming as well. She said, good morning, badass. Just here to say hello real quick. I have to listen later, dealing with multiple work and other things that I need to take care of, sending love. And then she did also said, yes, divorce can show you who you should be and your potential for new chapter. That was your destiny. Losing yourself in relationship and trauma is a pivotal moment, and finding the right plan to healing. Yes, definitely, J-Ro. And I definitely know that you're on a healing path. And I know that amazing things are going to come from it as well. We also have Bryce. He says, good morning. Looking forward to the conversation today. And then Eric is joining us. He said, good badass morning. Good badass morning to you as well. And you got to see Eric as well.
Hi, Eric.
Yeah, as the mediator. The wrong word. Sometimes I do that in my mind. I say that I think the right word and I say the opposite, a different word. And so Eric was an amazing just guide for us as we were talking on that panel. It was very serendipitous that he ended up getting put in that position, and couldn't have had a better person helping us.
Yeah, it was great. He did a really good job.
He did a great job. Yeah. One of the other things that I was thinking about that you have mentioned previously is related to fear is we talked about self-doubt and those types of things. And one of the things that I find fascinating that you do is improv. And maybe you can talk a little bit about, because I can imagine a lot of people would find fear in doing improv. I actually would love it. And I've volunteered before to do improv, and I would love to be able to do more of it because I think it helps you just be able to talk off the cuff. And I've had to do a lot of that over the years. But if you could talk a little bit about what you do with people on that.
Yes. Well, a lot of the exercises in my online courses and live ones, even online, we do a lot of improv. We don't call it that necessarily because people have this fear around improv. But here's the thing. We're all improvising every minute of every day when you think about it. Unless you walk around with a script, you're improvising. So all this does is give you some tools to use to be able to do that in a better way and to be able to connect with others. There's rules like yes and, where you sort of accept and build. There's make your partner look good, which is always great for communication and leadership.
Nice.
And I'm a member of this group called the Applied Improvisation Network. We just had our international conference down in Tampa, and it's an amazing group of people. So we take improv concepts and exercises and apply them to learning, leadership. I did a session on stress management using improv. People apply it to people with dementia, people with autism, elder care, trauma, refugees. I mean, the applications of the improv concepts are endless. And on a just from a strictly leadership and just personal development standpoint, go take an improv class. It's really amazing. It'll get you over that fear of uncertainty. It'll get you over that fear of being up in front of people. And it's not about the comedy, it's about being able to respond and take a scene in a way that makes it a meaningful kind of scene, and you support each other as your improv partners. And like I said, those lessons are just invaluable. And I've been doing improv for a long time. I started doing improv like in seventh grade. We had this improv thing that we did. And so I've been doing this a while. And then I quit my engineering construction job for about 3 years. I became a full-time actor and writer, did tons of improv and theater games and stand-up comedy. And it really prepared me for what I do now, which is being able to just do literally anything, anytime, facilitate. You just give me a topic and say, we got an hour, I can facilitate something on it using improvisational stuff.
I love that. I didn't realize that you had that type of background. I actually had I had a theater scholarship in for my first 2 years of college. So that's how I got through went and got an AA, and then I ended up going on to a 4-year university. But that's how I paid for my first 2 years, because I was on my own. My parents didn't have the money to be able to do things. And I find that, in life, sometimes things happen for you. And you don't know why those things happen. So I was in theater. I sang, I danced. I also did acting. So I had a part. I did Damn Yankees. I was the she devil.
Really?
I was Lola.
Lola.
Yeah. And so that was the part that I played. It was a very, very tough part because it required so much in it, because I had to dance, I had to sing at the same time, like all those types of things. And the director invited the theater director from the college to come see me, and I got a scholarship without even trying, without even doing anything. They just like offered it to me, and that ended up paying the 2 years. And I think about that, and I'm like, wow, like that's just crazy to me. Like, I didn't even apply, and somehow I got a scholarship.
Do you ever have some thoughts about what if I would have gone into like musical theater and Broadway and those kind of things?
So funny enough, I have family members that have. So my niece was actually almost the youngest person to win a Tony. And she performed on the Tonys. And then my nephew also performed in musicals. And so we've always had sort of that background. I was more in musicals, where my sister was more singing. So she did opera. She even performed with an opera house and interned with them. And so those are things that we just really enjoyed. But I think that performance aspect is one of the things that has helped me in being able to be confident. Like, I remember performing every single time, and my stomach would just be in knots. I was like, oh, like every single time before I'd go on. And as you're performing, as you're starting, you're so nervous. And then all of a sudden it just disappears. It's like this feeling. And now I don't have it at all. Like, I don't get any nervousness, but I think it's that repetition that is required in order to get over it, because I listen to other people and they're like, there's no way I could do that. And I'm like, I know, it's super nerve-wracking at first, but the more you do it, the easier it gets.
Yeah. And even the course I've created and the session I do on presentation skills, we talk about how to present as if you were a professional actor. So you have a character, and you have a costume, and you have a script, and those things. And it makes it a little bit fun and a little less intimidating, because you're playing a role. It's not really you, right? So you can be the expert or the good person or the boss or whatever
Yes.
that role is. But it's so true. I would encourage anybody to do that. It takes some improv classes, take some acting classes. It's
Hmm.
given me such good skills that I use every day. And like you said, we talked about I could just show up and just do stuff and not really be nervous about it or not worry about it or not get those knots in your stomach. Or once you start, they go away, right?
Well, you told me an example right beforehand where you showed up to something and the person didn't show up, and then tell them what you did.
Yeah. So I was at the mental health summit, and it was a session on reducing stigma around suicide and mental health with the trades, and the speaker didn't show up. And I asked the person that was kind of moderating in the back, I said, is he going to be here? And she said, I don't think so, we haven't heard from him. So I walked to the front. There were about maybe 80 people there. I said, hey, do you guys want to do this session? And they went, what are you talking about? I said, well, I'll just facilitate it. And they went, sure, okay. So I just facilitated this whole session. So we started with some improv exercises and storytelling and what is stigma. Let's define it, and then let's brainstorm some ways on how do we reduce it, and let's role play some things on what that would look like. And we filled the hour, and it was done. And they said, okay, cool, thanks for doing that. And it
That's
seemed so
awesome.
easy to me. It was effortless. I didn't really agonize over it or think about it. I just said, hey, this is a valuable session, let's just do it.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, you're like, hey, let's do this thing. Like, if he's not going to show up, let's still do it. Like, you guys, this is apparently a topic that's important to you, so let's talk about it.
Yeah, and I mean that's the whole idea of what I do in terms of learning and teaching is flip that. Make the persons in the audience, the content creators, just give them some good exercises around that, and they can come up with some excellent stuff that would be far better than anything you could put on a PowerPoint slide.
Yeah.
They'll come up with the coolest stuff because you've got so many brains in the room, and you give them the right exercises, and they come up with great stuff. So I'm doing a session at CMAA in Nashville coming up in October, I think, and it's a session about human connection and about really focusing on the people stuff and human interactions and connections, and a lot of it's improv, and it's very fun. It's very impactful.
Yeah. I love that. By the way, Adam is here. Adam says, my people collaborating. He said, I'm living this, y'all. Maybe he said meaning loving. Loving this, y'all badasses.
Okay.
Either way, we love you, Adam. Thank you for
Hey,
joining
Adam,
us.
great to see you, man.
Yeah. So I want to maybe get into a little bit more of the law of relativity. And one of the things that tends to happen is that sometimes we place blame on external circumstances or people. And I want to talk about how maybe, what if we stopped placing blame on external circumstances or people, and how might our perspective change? And I'd also like to hear from the audience as well. Has there been a time that you've placed blame on someone else or maybe your circumstances? And once you identified, you know what, I'm going to stop doing that, how your perspective ended up changing. Brent, do you have some ideas on this one?
Well, first of all, totally guilty. I do that. I have done it, do it still.
Yep.
And saying, well, they just don't have the culture to support this emotional intelligence work, or that guy just doesn't want to work and create the change. And you can do that all day. But number one, you're making assumptions. And number two, it doesn't solve the problem. So for me, it's about letting go of that concept of blaming others. Also, I think that's an ego thing.
Yeah.
I'm sort of half Southern Baptist, half Buddhist, and so I have this really weird split personality when it comes to philosophy, and so I think it's the ego clamoring and trying to justify it in some way. But if you can just accept and say, okay, this guy's not doing the work. Oh, what can I do differently to reach him? I'll do my best and see if I can find something. But if not, let it go. It just don't blame him. Don't blame yourself, which is probably the worst thing I do. But just do your best, and then let it go. Same thing with the culture of the company. If you can find ways to sort of infiltrate that and create a little bit of change there, then that's a good thing. But you don't have to have a totally successful program every time you have a program. You're going to have some things that don't work out. And so it's about reducing the blame, learning from that experience, and just letting go of the result. If you love what you're doing, let go of the result. The result's going to be the result. And you don't have to blame anybody, good or bad. That's the other side of that is I can't take credit when things go good. If I do that, then I have to take the credit when things go badly as well. So if you just let it go and say, wow, that worked out that way, what can I learn from it? And I'll just try to tweak some stuff next time.
Yeah. I love that perspective of it's ultimately about just learning about whether it's good or bad. And I try to get rid of those words, even good or bad, but just learning from the situation in general, no matter how it is that it's turning out.
Right. I'll put those in quotes, good and bad. You're right. Yeah. There is no good or bad.
I know.
And that's what the Buddhists say. Things are things.
Only is.
Yeah, that's right. Your perspective makes them good or bad, but they're just what they are. We put all those labels ourselves on.
Yeah. And I think about that all the time, and I'm like, okay, oh, that's good, that's bad. And I'm like, oh, but is it? Like, why am I putting that label on it? Like and when I think about that, it really has to do a lot with what you're talking about. I grew up Baptist, but I also very much resonate with the Buddhist mentality of things as well. And I had to unlearn, I think, a lot of things. Even whenever I look at good and evil, even that word in what it is that I learned from a religious perspective, it's like, okay, but sometimes the things that happen, the challenges that happen to us in life are also for a reason, for a purpose. And for me, I just continue to look at, okay, what am I learning from this? And I think ultimately I've continued to just focus on, okay, just be present. Don't add some scenario or story in your mind. And I've had to do this. I feel like I have to do this all the time. Like I start having this story in my mind, like, oh, well, what if they're doing this? What if they're doing that? And I stop myself and I'm like, okay, stop. I'm like, that's a made up story that you're putting in your head. So I just sit there, and I've really found that even the word meditation, I meditate, but even that word is negative to some people, have found, like my daughter. So I've had to flip it and say, okay, I focus on breathing. And I've started using that word with her because for whatever reason, she's decided that meditation is not something she can do, even though I've sat there and had a conversation with her. I'm like, it's really not what a lot of people think. They think your mind doesn't have anything going on in it, when in actuality, it's really just focusing in on what it is you're thinking and being aware of what it is you're thinking and being aware of how your body is feeling and those types of things and why it is that you're thinking those types of things.
Yeah, it's more like a hyper awareness, and you let stuff kind of flow through you and experiencing them for what they are, and then let them go. And then the next thing comes in. I had a guy from Denmark. I was doing a program in Sweden, and he said, I think this yoga meditation is crap. I said, well, okay. It's not for everybody. Find what works for you. He goes, but that deep breathing, that is really helping me. Really helping. I said, well, just don't do the yoga and meditation. Just do the breathing part. He goes, yes. Well, thank you. It's like, call it what you need to call it, but find some stuff that works for you. And we talk about, you can call it what you want. Quiet time, prayer time, me time, meditation time, whatever you want. But it's that quiet introspection without any agenda. You're not solving any problems. You're not trying to strive to do something. You're just being and observing and breathing.
Yeah, I love that. Being, breathing, and observing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things you also said is you said the word acceptance. And a part of this particular law, they also talk about how the understanding our current situation and how can radical acceptance of our current situation help us, and what would that look like for radical acceptance?
Hmm. Number one, I think it's really hard to do at times, especially
Mhm,
when it comes to ourselves. For me, anyway, as as many people are, you're your own worst critic at times.
mhm,
So accepting things as they are, although difficult, I think it's a way to just reduce the ego and reduce that clamor of just trying to do something or fix something or convince somebody or
mm,
defend something.
mm,
It's about just accepting things as they are and letting those things go and quieting that ego. And then what happens is pretty miraculous if you can manage to do that. Things just become things, like the Buddhists, sort
mhm,
of intonate that it's just a thing. You're putting the judgment on it. So
mhm.
if you can just accept those things as they are, learn, move, keep working toward whatever those core values that you're working toward, things become a lot less complicated. The other thing I found is when you start down that road of non-acceptance, there's a lot of assumptions being made that
Mhm.
may or may not be true. And in my mind, it's usually probably about 90% not true.
Mm.
So why are you doing that to yourself? Why don't you just practice this acceptance of things as they are, focus on moving forward, and just letting things be what they are?
Yeah. One of the things that I've found helpful in practicing radical acceptance is first acknowledging my feelings. Like, I'm feeling a particular way. Is
Mm,
it fear? Is it anxiousness? Is it, which is really a portion of fear, just a different word of fear, but understanding how it is that I'm truly feeling and acknowledging it and allowing those emotions. So, but doing it in a way of, hey, I need a moment. Like, let me go spend some time on my own instead of immediately reacting, because I'm an action type person, and a lot of times whenever I do that, I'm reacting, and I need to just take a moment and step back and say, okay, well, how is it that I'm feeling about whatever it is that's going on? So I'm
right.
upset. Why is it that I'm upset? And sitting in that, and then identifying, going back to even what Saban said, is identifying what can change. So I really focus on what it is I can and can't control in the situation. And almost always that's going to be my me,
Yeah.
what it is that I do versus trying to control what it is someone else is doing. So how can I recognize the things that are going on and go beyond the control of what I can't control, and accepting that, no matter how I feel in the situation that has occurred, uh, I can't change sometimes what it is that's happening, or I can't change how someone else is acting, all of those
Right.
types of things. So for me, it's really first feeling it, then seeing what it is that I truly can control. And then a lot of times it's then shifting that perspective. Okay, well, how can I look at this? How can I do a mind shift? Like, why is
Yeah.
this? How could this actually help me in this situation versus hurting me? How is this happening for me versus to me?
I love that perspective. And it's the acknowledgement of the pain or the trauma or the emotion. I think one thing is when you name it, it reduces the power of it. So when you acknowledge it, it's less scary in a way.
Mm,
So I think there's a lot of value in that. So acknowledging that, and then moving forward from that, and all those questions that you talked about. What am I learning, and what is this teaching me, and things like that. But it's the acknowledgement, I think, is a really good thing, because we have this positive psychology movement, and everybody's
yes.
all, everything's great and positive, and that, and an overly positive person by nature,
Yeah.
but I think there's a lot of value in acknowledging the trauma and the pain and those things. In fact,
Yeah.
there's something called emotional freedom technique that we recommend to some people, and they use it. It was developed by an engineer, but you do some tapping on some like acupuncture points, and you say, even though
Mhm.
like this sucked, I still love and accept myself, even
Yeah.
though I'm really struggling right now. So it's an acknowledgement of the pain, and then I'm moving forward with some acceptance and some positive things moving forward. But without the acknowledgement of the crap, I
Yes.
think it diminishes the results sometimes.
100%. That is one of the things that I've also learned is that you do have to feel those that, we talk about, yes, just be positive, those types of things. Well, no, if
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
avoiding the feelings. And so if we push those feelings down and don't acknowledge them, we're telling them, oh, you're not valid. So in a way, we're not validating ourselves and how it is we feel. We
yeah,
feel how we feel. It's understanding, okay, well, why do I feel that way? Is there
yeah,
something about my past that I'm still needing to deal with? Is it really this situation? Like, what is it that I'm needing to do? And an example of this that I was telling you earlier is I have a client, and a client was rather rude in how they
yeah,
responded back. And I also said, you know what? He also has some validity in what it is he's saying. Did he have to say it that way too?
yeah, sure.
So it's like, I want to acknowledge, yes, what you're saying has validity. I also know that where I'm coming from is I'm just trying to make sure that we're on the same page, and we're doing right by you. So does it require for you to come back and communicate in the way that you communicated? Because when you don't, one of the things we were talking about is when you don't address someone and how it is that they act towards you, they will just continue to act that way towards you.
Yes,
So you do have to say, like, look, I hear what you're saying. And yes, I am, for example, I'm not a finance person. This isn't my area of expertise. So the things that you said are valid. I also know that the way that you communicated to me is also not acceptable. Like,
right.
let's be professional in our communication as well.
Yeah. Absolutely. And not to get into gender stereotypes, but I think guys are not as adept at this than many women are.
How did you guess
And
he was a guy? Did I say he?
no, but I made an assumption. I'm just, now I'm now I'm guilty of gender stereotyping. But anyway, but what I was saying is, like, when I tell my wife, like, I'll have a hard week, or maybe things aren't going well from the work standpoint, and promotion of things and business things, and I'll just tell my wife, I'm discouraged, or I'm really struggling this week. That moment is the best moment of connection we have all week, because
Hmm.
normally I'm the everything's great guy, everything's wonderful, or it's a little challenging right now, but boy, I'm really hopeful that this is going to bust through. And I'm always that guy. But when I express more of a quote negative emotion, there are no negative emotions.
Yeah.
They're just information. But my wife seems to respond in a whole different way.
Hmm.
So
Why do you think that is?
I think because I become human. I
Hmm.
become I don't have to be propping her up all the time. She can be the one propping me up, and
Yeah.
we need to do that with each other, and not just be those roles all the time. They need to be able to switch, and she feels good about encouraging me and saying, it's okay. And I think there's a lot of power in that. And again, what does it start with? Vulnerability, right? It
Mm.
all starts with being vulnerable and admitting those things.
Yeah. Adam's favorite word now, vulnerability. Heather's also here. She was laughing at this. She said, I love that the yoga and meditation stuff didn't work, but breathing, being, and accepting did. She said, as a yogi, I find that amusing, and at the same time know that it doesn't matter what he calls it as long as he does it and it works for him.
Absolutely. I've been doing yoga and meditation for construction guys. I started doing yoga myself and meditation in 1977.
Wow.
So I've been doing it for a long time, and I'm a certified instructor as well. And it's amazing the work and what it teaches these folks that I work with. And many of them continue to do it after the programs, which is awesome.
Yeah. Adam also said a culture of vulnerability. He hates both of those words, but he's starting to like both of them as we redefined them for him. It's just like the yoga and meditation stuff didn't work, but if we call it something else.
Yeah, we need to rename it.
Heather also said, yes, yes, yes. A mind shift to let go and control is a huge step and not easy. Recognizing and accepting what we can and can't control brings so much calm and peace. It doesn't make the process suck less, but it helps us get through it without as much stress. Yes.
Right on, Heather.
Yeah. Well, as we start to, I'm taking a look, we're about a little ways through this. I want to start to maybe focus on a couple more questions and then start to wrap things up. One of the other things that I tend to find is that a lot of times we hold on to resentment about challenges, and that can also prevent us from moving forward. This is a conversation I've had with my daughter a lot, is that she tends to hold on to things. She's like they did this to me, and she's having trouble like letting go. And I'm like, okay, so how does that impact you in holding on to that resentment? Do you think that other person cares at this point? Like, you're holding on to this, so that's impacting you, not this other person. She's like, I know, but I'm still mad.
Yeah. It's so true.
And I'm trying to figure out, like, how can we better communicate to people how we letting go of resentment, how it's really, really just holding us back from moving forward.
So my wife is half Sicilian, half Scottish, and
Oh,
she's
man.
kind of feisty. And she also holds on to things. She's, I call it the Sicilian grudge gene. But the other thing I read in a Buddhist text was resentment. That resentment is like drinking poison and hoping the other person dies. It hurts nobody but yourself.
Yeah.
And I know something, even that perspective cannot shift that if you have the Sicilian grudge gene, especially. Yeah. But I think it comes with practice, and to me, it's a self-healing. It's save yourself. Like, this is a self-healing thing. This isn't about the other person at all.
Right.
This is about your own health and well-being. And so, as hard as that is, and I don't know if you can just practice it. I don't know if there's a mechanism or an exercise. I haven't come across one other than maybe some kind of compassion exercise where you talk about, what they may be going through. Like, just like me, they've suffered pain and loss in their life. Just like me, they have had trauma. Just like me, they're just trying to live their life. If you can get that compassion into it, sometimes you can let those things go. But it's important for you, not for them.
Yeah. I do think that this is just something people have to eventually experience. That the more that they hold on and resent people, so like they're holding on to that first person, then they're gonna find another person, then they're gonna find, and eventually like all of that's gonna start to bottle up inside you, and really that's gonna negatively impact you. So when it's one person, probably not going to impact you, even two people, even maybe three. But the more people you start to resent over time, how bitter will you become?
And I think it leads to illness too. Yes. I think your body reacts to that in a negative way, and you get some autoimmune or heart thing going, or blood pressure, or all those sort of lifestyle diseases that we have. I think they manifest much, much more readily.
100%. I also have this book that I've shown. It's down here. It's called Messages from the Body, and it's the psychological and their psychological meaning. So in this book, it's a hardbound book. And anytime you have anything that's ailing you, you can open it up and then you can read the passages of the things that it's connected to emotionally. And it is interesting. I was introduced to this book with someone that I was going to be doing a past life regression with. And as we were doing it, she was like, read these passages. And so as I did that, she has me read it out loud. My face started to become flush. And she was like, that one resonates with you. And I was like, yes. And she was like, I can tell. She was like, your face, the color of your face changed. And she goes, but that's emotions. Those are emotions that are being released and letting go. But she told me before I came to her it was going to be several months before I saw her, because I was going out to Arizona. She told me, keep track of like pain and the things that you're dealing with. So I started to do that. And by reading this book, it really helps you to understand like what you're still dealing with and what it is you're still releasing from an emotional perspective. And it's actually really helped a lot, because it helps you to then dive in and go, oh, this is something I'm still dealing with from the past, that I'm still needing to release and release the resentment, or release the feelings that you're having about whatever that experience was.
Yes. And that trauma lives in your body until you release it, I think. Do you know Louise Hay's work?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. I read that book a long time ago. It's a great book. You Can Heal Your Life. Is that the name of the book?
I think it is. Yes. And then there's also a website that she has that I always have to go find again, but it actually has, similar to this, it'll tell you, can look up the different things. And that's what this big book does as well, is that it'll tell you what it's related to. So if you have a particular type of cancer, if you have, whatever it is, the only one that things I haven't found is I haven't found POTS. As an example, because that one seems to be very broad in a ways, and I feel like is newer. That one is not in the book, but this has like everything from to like feet fungus to like you name it, all these different things.
Cool. Yeah, I think that mind-body connection, that's what we talk a lot about in our programs, is there's a connection. And if you deny that connection, you're just doing it at your own peril. When you're better physically, you're better emotionally, vice versa. You have to support both. You have to, and I would add to that some kind of spiritual component, something outside of yourself that's meaningful. Doesn't have to be religion, but it just needs to be something outside yourself, bigger than yourself. And when you have all those elements going on, they feed and support each other. And if one suffers, then the other starts to suffer.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
you got to do it all.
That was actually one of the things that I also had to deal with as well, is that growing up, I grew up in Southern Baptist, was what I grew up with. And over time, I felt very disconnected to a lot of the things. And I remember even going into I had a really good preacher at the time. And I remember there were certain things that they would say, like, oh, you shouldn't dance, you shouldn't drink, you shouldn't do all of these things. But dancing was something that was really, I loved. And I remember going into him and saying, hey, I hear the things that are being said, and one of them is that you shouldn't dance. And I'm like, I'm about to try out for dance squad. And that's something that I love. And he said, well, he goes, here's the thing. How do you feel when you dance? And I said, I feel great. I feel amazing. He said, well, understand that feeling. And he said, knowing how you feel inside is what you need to pay attention to. And I thought that was the most profound non-Southern Baptist thing ever. But it allowed me the freedom to like continue down my path of sort of questioning things. And that was one of the things that as I would go, my aunt was very religious. And whenever I went and visited her, I had to go to her church. And I would sit there and they did not like me because I would ask questions and I would be like, but why? Like I was
Right.
the child that was asking, like, well, help me understand. This doesn't make sense. And those types of
Yeah.
things. And they were just like, well, you just have to have faith. And I'm like, but that doesn't make any sense. And
Yeah.
so I was that child. And eventually I became agnostic because no one would answer any of my questions. And I was like, it's not that I don't believe that there's something out there. It's just that I haven't really been able to figure this out. And it wasn't until much later in my life, after my father passed away, that I finally connected from a spiritual perspective and really figured out like what I resonated with. And it's like all kinds of things. It's everything from Christ consciousness to Buddhism to, just Mother Earth. I mean, all kinds of different types of things that I recognize. But really part of the challenge was letting go of judgment and viewing things as good and bad. And I think that this particular law talks really about that and how that limits our growth because we are constantly judging others when in actuality, that's really not our place to do it. I mean, even in the Bible, it says that, but it's interesting, whenever I allowed judgment to release from good and bad, and it allowed me to be able to grow as an individual. And I'm curious what people in the audience, what you have found in judgment and people that judged you or you judge them, how that has limited potentially your growth. And then Brent, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, that's a really powerful release. It has been for me. I consider myself pretty non-judgmental. Like when I'm coaching people and they tell me things, there's never any judgment around that or what they should be doing. Or I try to stay away from those words. I always tell them, don't should yourself. When they say, well, I should be exercising every day and I should be working on this emotional intelligence. No, don't should yourself.
Yeah.
So I think I consider myself to be not judgmental, but it creeps in all the time. Like I judge the people that don't embrace emotional intelligence and these human connection concepts. I am judging them. But I think if you reach that point where you let that judgment go and get that compassion of they're just doing the best they can, they have their own culture, their own things, their own priorities, their own everything. And so I got to the point where I most of the time, not all the time, I'll say, look, if you don't want this, that's cool. I love you anyway. I wish you the very best. Not what an idiot, your culture sucks.
Yeah.
I don't go down those roads nearly as often as I did in my younger days. So I'm making progress, but still fall back into those old patterns. But when you do release that, it's such a freeing kind of a thing because there's nothing to control. You just love people, connect with them on whatever level they're willing to connect with you on, and just accept that and move on.
Yeah. And I think it's something I have to constantly remind myself of as well, because, whenever I did my Myers-Briggs, I am a J. So I do have that judging aspect in me. And I also have done a really good job of just allowing people to be themselves as well. And people aren't always going to have my same perspective, but it's understanding. I guess the ones that I have a little bit more of a challenge with is like, okay, well, help me understand. And then they're like, like they don't want to talk about it. Okay. All right, well, you're not there's not much I can do at that point.
Yeah. It's just letting that go and letting them be who they are and without that judgment. And again, that's not easy to do. It's so not easy to do. We're judgmental by nature. And, as technical people, engineers, contractors, we are trained to find everything that could possibly be wrong. And we do that with humans as well. We tend to.
Yeah.
I tend to. So it's about really checking yourself on that and saying, do I really need to go down this road? Probably not,
Yeah.
They're doing their own stuff. We talked about at the very beginning. You said everybody's struggling with something,
Yeah.
Just acknowledge that and have compassion for that and just connect on whatever level you're able to connect.
Yeah. Heather also said, I was also that child at church and was not liked much for it either. Laugh out loud. She also said, yep, the Buddhist priest who led the meditation workshop in my yoga teacher training often says that about drinking poison. I love
Yeah.
that saying. Yeah. As we start to look at wrapping up the law of relativity, I guess, how might we embrace the idea that life is happening for us? And how might that change our perspective on life? And I want to sort of end with that and thinking about how we can embrace the idea that life is happening for us.
Struggle with this one because I think for me it's easy because these little things that go wrong in my life. Hold on,
Okay.
I lost my earbud. These things that are going into my life they're so inconsequential.
Yeah.
I'm reached the end of my work career. I'm starting to cut back. But for some people who really are struggling, and a lot of my friends and family are really struggling right now, it's hard for me to find that for them. It's
Yeah.
hard for them to find it for themselves, that life is just happening for them. It's like, well, why is all this really horrible stuff happening to me if that's the case? So I'm still struggling with this. And for me, it's easy because whatever happens, the consequence is so negligible that I can deal with it, move on, and say, wow, that was a good lesson, and let me just do this. But for people that I think God is piling on a little bit for them, and really
Yeah.
taking this whole, thing about I only give you what you can handle. Well, don't trust me so much because I'm reaching the end of my rope here.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have an answer for them. And I can't, it just seems like platitudes and rah-rah, touchy-feely stuff when you talk about, oh, life is just happening for you and learn from this lesson.
Yeah.
And I don't think they want to hear that. So I'm struggling between the compassion for what they're going through and the how do we move on. That's my struggle.
Yeah. And I think the hardest thing that I have is that I want to be able to help them.
Mhm.
And I also know that sometimes they just need to go through the struggle
Mhm.
because the lesson is for them, not for me.
Right.
And a lot of times it's required me to detach a little bit more because if people don't go through that experience, they're going through it for a particular reason. They're the ones that need to figure out why it is that they're doing that. So I
Yeah.
think the best way that I can continue to help them is just, embrace them and say, I'm so sorry that you're going through this. And I know that, that things are a struggle and we a lot of times can't see beyond where it is that life is taking us. My hope is that you'll continue to have hope, that I think it's remembering like where we have been and remembering a past event that we've gone through that we all thought was impossible. So
Yeah.
maybe it's saying, I know you've been through some other things in the past and you've come out of it. You'll come out of this again and you'll become, I have found I come out stronger in the end. But I think some of my bigger challenges now are allowing people to go through the challenges because I want to be able to help them
Mm.
and
Yeah.
stop the pain, when in actuality I'm just prolonging the pain because it's a lesson for them.
Right.
And if I stop it or end up helping and doing those things, then are they actually learning the lesson?
It's a good point. And I'm going back through some of the people I'm helping now,
Yeah.
and am I really helping them, or should I let them crash and burn and emerge, later better for this?
Yeah.
So it's a great point and something I struggle with as well.
Yeah. It's hard. And I think when people have been through a lot of things that they have worked through, then we see the benefit of really going through those challenges. and the things that we had to do. I think the best thing that we can continue to do is, for me, that's why I am continuing BOYBAS, is that I do feel like it is people that are at a place that they're ready to listen to this particular message of understanding that you can only control you can't control the rest of what's going on.
Right.
It's also sitting back and saying, okay, well, what do I need to learn from this? Like, why am I experiencing this? And I think a lot of times people are not willing to sit down and do that they just want a quick fix because that's what we've really been taught in life. And so if we're having challenges, it's like, okay, well, what do you feel like you need to focus on? In what is the lesson in this?
Yeah, it's a good point. This is the biggest one I was struggling with when you talked about the questions. This was the hardest one for me.
Was it?
Lots of learning left to do for me, I think.
I think for all of us. Yeah. Well, everyone, I hope you enjoyed today's conversation on the law of relativity. We're going to be ending things. I do want to let you know that on the 22nd, I'm going to take a little bit of a break. There are 5 weeks in August, so we'll come back on the 29th. And then I have 2 individuals joining me as a panel to be able to talk and finish out this particular law. And Brent, I just want to thank you so much for being my first co-host, special co-host for BOYBAS. I love just being able to go back and forth with you. It was just a really easy conversation.
I feel the same way. This was fun, and I'll come back anytime. Just let me know. We'll set something up if you want to have me back.
Yeah, I will hold you to that.
Okay.
All right. Well, everyone, I want to wish you a badass Friday, an amazing weekend, and go into Monday having that feeling of just, I can accomplish anything. And so I want to thank everyone for your interaction today and for joining us. And again, thank you, Brent. Be sure to check out his website, join him, connect to him on LinkedIn. And I think, Brent, you're going to add the links again on those different areas so people can connect with you.
Absolutely. Love to connect with you everyone out there. And Sarah, thanks again. This has been really a nice way to spend my Friday morning.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. See you not next Friday, but the following Friday.